Hi, I'm Roland Stevens, the General Manager of Government and Client Relationships at T Corp, and this is the second in our series of Vantage Fireside Chats, and I am delighted to welcome the Treasurer, the Honourable Daniel Mookhey, to talk about his third budget.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Treasurer. We might dive right in. The world's a pretty uncertain place right now. There's a lot going on. How do you set a budget in that sort of environment?
Well, you listen to the advice that you're given by the New South Wales Treasury, by T Corp, by the New South Wales Public Sector, who've got a really excellent capability of predicting uncertainty, which is a nice way of saying Treasury's default view is things are uncertain, so you better be careful. And it's good advice. It's good advice that I keep in mind. But what it means for us in doing this budget is that we had to be very, very circumspect, cautious, and put a real emphasis on rebuilding the state's balance sheet. So we have fiscal firepower to deal with uncertainty and to deal with shocks should they arise.
Thank you, Treasurer. I had a look on that map Treasury have put up that maps out all the budget initiatives. There are so many, but in your speech, you focused on first on housing and secondly on child protection. Why those two things?
Well, the housing crisis is a real crisis, and we have so much work to do to make sure that people have a roof over their head that they can afford, that you can't duck the issue. And in each budget, we have tried to make progress when it deals with the housing crisis. In our first budget, we did a lot for essential worker housing. In our second budget, we made the biggest investment in social and affordable housing since the Second World War, $5.1 billion to build 8,400 new social homes, half of the victim survivors of family and domestic violence. In this budget, a canny use of our balance sheet to do a pre-sale guarantee, market housing, bringing forward 15,000. But I just got to say, we've got more work to do. We need to build more homes. But when it comes to child protection, that is really a tribute to the New South Wales Public Service, to be frank, because for 2 years we've been quietly working on this problem, and we inherited a child protection system that was fundamentally broken, that saw kids, 100 kids per night living in motels, needing a big fix. And the very hard-working team at the Department of Communities and Justice, the very hard-working team in Treasury, the very hard-working team in the TCO have all responded magnificently to deliver reform, but therefore to put us in a position where we can reciprocate by ploughing more into the system so our most vulnerable children get a better start. And I just think that is so important for the state. And frankly, it is one of the things I'm most proud about in this budget.
It's hard to argue against. It's wonderful. So being from T Corp, we'd love to come back again to Fiscal Repair. It's dear to our hearts. That's been a theme of all three budgets that you've delivered. How does this budget, in concrete terms, build on the first two?
Yeah, well, we're pleased that we can show people the numbers and show people the progress we've made in repairing the state's balance sheet. Debt is likely to be about $10 billion lower by the end of the next financial year than it was set to be prior to us coming to government. Equally, we have now got a cash operating surplus, which means we're not asking you to go and borrow money to pay our day-to-day bills. We can now pay our day-to-day bills without having to get T Corp to go to the markets and raise a loan for that. And I think they're two very important signals to send to the market that says New South Wales Government's finances are stabilising, the New South Wales Government is being careful with public money, it's stable, it's certain, it's predictable, and I know that is hopefully going to lead to better pricing of our debt. And I guess why does that matter? Because if T Corp can borrow for even 10 basis points, 20 basis points less for every dollar we need to raise, we save millions. And particularly in this budget, because we've reduced debt by $10 billion than otherwise it would have been, we are saving $400 million each year in interest payments. And that $400 million, for example, was enough just for this 1 year to almost fund our entire bus expansion. And I, as Treasurer, I say no to a lot of things. I say no to a lot of programs that have tremendous merit. So saving every cent in interest payments means we can spend more on the essential services and less having to pay off our debt.
And that's certainly a message we'll take very directly to the market and make sure that's heard, that sacrifice is heard. Can we talk about productivity? I know you've said a lot in a lot of your public communications around the need for for productivity growth, for more private sector investment to grow the economy. What measures are there in the budget to encourage that?
Yeah, one of the big measures we've announced is the Investment Delivery Authority, which is designed to give those particularly big investments, the investments that are more than $1 billion, a fast-track path through engagement with the New South Wales Government and through our planning system. And the reason why that's important is because New South Wales has everything going for it except the time it takes to get major projects done. And we need to do better on that. And for someone who is looking to invest more than $1 billion on any one particular project, if they get a bit more certainty, they get going faster. And if they get going faster, we then get better tools and technology in our economy, which means our workers have better tools and technology to work with, which means that we become more productive over time. And so that is a good initiative. But I've got to be honest with you, Roland, we've got more work to do here. One of the challenges that is still ahead of the state is that we do need to do more changes to the actual Planning Act, which is why the government is looking to reform and looking to embed a lot of what we've announced since we've come to power in law, so people who are looking to do more in New South Wales know that it's not going to change on a dime and that the state settings are stable.
Fantastic, thank you, Treasurer. Maybe one last question, maybe a broad question. Our audience for this is the New South Wales state sector, departments and SOCs. What message do you want them collectively to take from the budget regarding the government's plans for New South Wales?
Well, firstly, please stick to your budgets. Secondly, we respect the impartiality, but also the professionalism of our world-class public service. But what the public service should conclude from the budget is that we're working towards a strategy. And the strategy is fiscal repair to enable further investment. And the two walk in step with each other. And I think lots of the agencies that have engaged now with the government over the last 3 years have seen what that means. And if you happen to be, for example, I've already mentioned it, if you happen to be at DCJ, we've done the repair and the reform in the first phase when it comes to child protection, but we've made sure that that money is being reinvested in better child protection. And so for that's going to be the way in which we continue to go on. We're determined to build a better state. We're determined to get New South Wales building. And what it means for the public sector is that repair reform allows for further investment.
Well, Treasurer, I think from our end that strategy comes through loud and clear, and thank you for taking the time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.